You're listening to Phil Hendrie on Coast to Coast PM from the Premier Radio Networks.
Phil Hendrie Show, 1-800-449-8686. A Korean War veteran there was an arrest at the home of a Korean War veteran in Alhambra over the weekend. Sunday was the 25th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War. And this arrest was made on Sunday after a breaking and entering charge. His name is Lloyd Bonifide. He is from Alhambra, California. He is a naval veteran of the Korean conflict and was arrested breaking into a neighbor's house. This neighbor, my understanding, Mr. Bonifide, is a Korean national or a Korean American?
The individual's home that I broke into is Mr. Dong Kyun Kim, and he is a Korean national residing in the United States and has lived on the southern border of my property for the last 10 years. And
you broke into his home?
You really want to watch how you say that, because the police told...
Well, I'm just quoting what the police report, sir. You know, it said that...
Well, the police told me that it was breaking and entering, and I told them it was on the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War. It was reparations. And,
all right, well, this is the story you gave the police. That Mr. Kim came home. You said you saw this Asian fellow going crazy. You were drinking his beer and cooking his steaks?
No, sir. I explained that in light of the fact that a whole lot of guys saved their bacon 50 years ago, that it seemed to me that a decent thing to do would be to give a tip of the hat to the Korean War veterans. So I got the idea about this reparation deal, and I don't know if you're familiar with what reparations are.
I know that reparations have been traditionally used to make some kind of monetary amends to the victims of some oppression or war. Is that what you think Korean War veterans are entitled to?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
Why?
Because I think we are the forgotten veterans. The 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean conflict came and went, and nobody says boo. So I think it's a fine how do you do to ignore the Korean War veteran, and I think that reparations are in order for each and every one of the 10 million veterans of the Korean conflict. That would be, in my way, was to go into the house of this South Korean and acquire reparations.
All right, so you live next door to this guy, and you went into his house on the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War to steal something?
No, sir. And again, Mr. Hendrie, you need to watch the way you say certain things.
Well, to my way of thinking, you go to a guy's house, you take stuff.
Well, it was a symbolic gesture on my part to take back some payment from these people for what we did and get the reparations. And by breaking in and having some steak and doing some of this Asian beer, this is my way of doing it. Now, this guy came home, and this Asian fellow went wild, and I said to him that in the name of the 10 million Korean War veterans, I'm having your steak and I'm drinking your beer.
In the name of 10 million Korean War veterans, you what?
I was having that. This guy had a problem over a six-pack of this Korean beer and a day-old steak.
So that's why you did that, to get, this was your reparation, cooking this guy's steak and drinking his beer?
Yes, sir.
How did you get into his house?
I'm sorry?
How did you get into his house?
Well, sir, that is something that I cannot tell you because I am a military veteran and there are things that I know how to do. And under the terms of the Geneva Convention, Mr. Hendrie, I don't have to tell you the things that I know how to do on account of I'm a military veteran.
You cannot tell me how you broke into this man's house?
No, I may not, sir, under the terms of the Geneva Convention.
You invoked the Geneva Convention with the police? You realize we're not in a war anymore, Mr. Bonifide. These are civilian authorities in the United States who caught you in someone's home.
No, I understand all of that, but I am educating the police. And I remember that when the police were asking me these questions, I didn't answer them. And
the police say that all you answered with was your name and your rank in the U.S. Navy.
I said, my name is Lloyd Bonifide. I'm a retired petty officer, United States Navy, and I'll tell you that I cannot give you any information. And I'll tell you, it was very difficult for me while the police questioned me, and all I could think of was my wife, Ruth, and the American flag. And I never was able, but they didn't break me, and they tried to sweat me.
Okay, keep in mind, for anybody who's just tuning in, we're talking to a Korean War veteran who's talking about being questioned by the police in Alhambra, not by North Koreans.
Well, you can make a joke of it, sir.
No, sir, I'm not trying to make a joke of it, but you said you're crying and you were thinking of the flag and your wife, and meanwhile, these are police officers asking you how you broke into this house. Now, our number is 1-800-449-8686, 1-800-449-8686, The Phil Hendrie Show. We're talking to a Korean War vet named Lloyd Bonifide, a retired petty officer from the U.S. Navy, who went into the home of a Korean neighbor on the anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War. And when this man came home, Mr. Kim, he saw you barbecuing one of his steaks.
He's got a problem over a day-old steak.
What do you mean he has a problem over a day-old steak, sir?
Because I went into his refrigerator and he had some meat there from the Vons, which didn't look very fresh, and he had a problem. Some of this Korean beer, which I wouldn't. Let me tell you something. It was a symbolic gesture. Otherwise, I'd rather take a sip out of a toilet at Dodger Stadium. And my.
All right, so you didn't like the man's beer?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, the police finally get there. Mr. Kim got there?
Mr. Kim arrived, asked me what I was doing at his house. I told him I was getting reparations for the Korean War veterans.
And he called the police.
Well, someone called the police.
Yeah, because the police showed up, and you were transported to a police substation, and you were questioned.
I was questioned.
What were you were asked? You were asked, how did you get in?
I was asked by the police how I entered, and I did not answer.
And you will not tell me now.
Mr. Hendrie, you have to understand that as a military veteran, there are things that I know how to do.
Well, here's my question for you. What things do you know how to do that you can't talk to me about?
The Geneva Convention clearly states that I don't have to tell you the things I know how to do.
The Geneva Convention, I don't know anything about the Geneva Convention, okay?
Well, it covers the treatment of prisoners of war and the wounded and how well you can interrogate someone.
All right, 1-800-449-8686. San Diego on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I appreciate you being a veteran of this country and defending the country, but you need to fast forward yourself to the year 2000 and either understand that it is no longer the Korean War.
Well, I'm in the year 2000, a year where some 10 million Korean War veterans don't get any appreciation.
Well, what about Veterans Day? Does that not include all veterans?
Yeah, on Veterans Day, it's always the World War II boys, and then, of course, it's those Vietnam boys who cry and cry and cry unless you give them a pat on the head and tell them everything's going to be okay.
Well, sir,
and so the Vietnam vet is lost in the middle of all of that.
I think you need to be seen by a psychiatrist.
That's what they say about a lot of vets. That's what they say about a lot of veterans,
You don't think you need a psychiatrist?
Why would I need a psychiatrist, sir?
Because you broke into a man's house.
I was making a symbolic gesture for the reparations to the Korean veterans.
For your personal gain of a steak. So you tell all the other veterans you served with that you had steak on their behalf by a Korean man in the U.S.
This was a symbolic.
Who didn't do anything to you personally.
Oh, the guy went nuts over a day-old steak and some goofy, some of that beer they drink.
You're lucky, sir. He's not a violent man in defending his home that he didn't take you out.
Mister, I'm a veteran of a military conflict, okay? So I think I know a little bit about that.
All right, and how old are you?
It doesn't make any difference.
No, but how old? You're a veteran of the Korean War. How old are you?
It doesn't make any difference.
So does the Geneva Convention say you don't have to tell me?
And you can make all of your jokes.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for your call. 1-800-449-8686. So this guy is Korean War vet on the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War, broke into the home of a Korean neighbor, drank his beer, and cooked up one of his steaks as a form of reparation for the Korean War vets that are ignored this time of year. And he was arrested, questioned by police, and all he gave them was his name and his rank. And when I asked the man, and you heard me ask him point blank, how did you get into the house? He said to me, I don't have to answer that. There's a lot of stuff that I know how to do. I was in the military. 1-800-449-8686, Phil Hendrie Show. Phil Hendrie Show, 1-800-449-8686, 1-800-449-8686. And I got good news. We're going to completely restructure the Phil Hendrie website, and we'll tell you about that when it happens. Stay tuned. It could be a couple of years, could be next week. I don't know when it's going to start, but I got the word, and the word is, the bird's the word, man, that we're going to have our website restructured, all new material, all new fun things, new places to go, new people to meet and see. Stay tuned. We ought to have some information for you on that just as soon as someone decides to stop by the office and let me know what's going on with that. But we're excited about it. And we're getting rid of that affiliate list, too, which I've never, ever, ever in my life seen any use for, ever. In what is the point of having an affiliate list? So, in other words, you like the show, you go by the website, and you go and check to see where you can listen to it. How would you? You're obviously listening to it already. So anyway, 1-800-449-8686. Mr. Lloyd Bonifide, who's a Korean War veteran, has joined us from his home in Alhambra, California. And we have him on the line. And we're also talking to you about Mr. Bonifide breaking into a Korean neighbor's house on the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War as reparations for Korean War vets. He cooked up a steak. You call it a day-old steak?
Yeah, it was as tough as shoe leather, and some of that squirrely Asian beer. And that's all that
you drank some of his squirrely Asian beer, and
yeah, well, it's some of that stuff. I don't know what it is, but I did it for the reparations of the Korean War vets. We invaded once, and we can do it again.
And the police asked you how you got in, and you wouldn't tell them.
That is correct.
Here is Ocala on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello. Hello. Is Ocala there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, ma'am. You're on the air.
Yes, I have an answer to this gentleman. He wants to be compensated for what happened. First off, we didn't invade the country. We were asked there by the South Koreans. Second,
when we invaded Korea. When you came home, you had veterans benefits.
You know the GI Bill?
Well, that's a funny thing about...
How much more do you want besides the fact that you were paid?
Well, that's a funny thing about the GI Bill because, you see, everybody gets that. So what's the big deal?
No, sir. Only veterans of wars get that.
Well, okay. The Vietnam crybabies got it.
Excuse me, I'm a Vietnam crybaby.
Well, you know something, with all due...
So is my husband. 24 years he served.
With all... what do you mean you're a Vietnam vet?
You bet I am, baby.
Oh, wait a second.
You were in the Vietnam War, ma'am? Where did you serve, ma'am?
She filled this a woman. She was a nurse or something. Were you
I'm
a nurse?
radioman. I was an intelligence specialist.
No wonder we lost.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, that is not...
At least I know better than to run in and break into somebody's house because I want to play the little child.
I want to get reparations for the 10 million...
You were paid for what you did there, and you were given the GI Bill. What more do you want from your country?
I'll tell you what. When the Vietnam crybabies came home, they got parades and everybody put them in the nut house.
My heart, they got parades. I think you better go back and live that era again. We were stoned.
Vietnam
veterans. Told not to. In fact, we were told by our commanding officer not to go off base in our uniforms because sailors were being attacked.
Well, how come all the
being a Vietnam veteran? Grow up and live in the real world,
Wait a second. How come all the Vietnam veterans got to go into the nut house for free? and all of the Korean War.
Give me a break.
No,
What do you mean nut house for
Nut
free?
house.
half of these Vietnam vets are in the lunatic bin because they're all a bunch of baby murderers. The other half of
no,
Okay,
we are not baby
What about
murderers.
that? What
we
about?
never were baby murderers.
What
an
about that?
awful thing to say.
What
you know
about
it's not
the son of a
truth.
bitch that got caught with William Kelly, son of a
You're
bitch?
a
That was one
childish
guy.
little old man.
That was one
who
guy.
wants too much.
Wait a second. That William Kelly guy at the Mau Mau massacre.
That's
the hell
not
was
the
the
truth,
Mau
and they've
Mau?
already come out with that fact.
What's the Mau Mau massacre?
He wasn't even stationed there.
It was.
You mean Me Lai?
Yes, he
that's
wasn't
they-
even stationed there.
Oh, baloney! That bald-headed son of a gun. They had
He
him.
wasn't stationed there.
You
He
know-
was 80 miles away. It was all a fabrication. Maybe you should catch up on local news.
The Me Lai massacre was a fabrication?
Yes, it was.
Really? I didn't know about
yes,
that.
it was. I just
Look at
started
that.
reading it a month and a
Mr.
half, 2 months ago.
Big talk show host. You aren't even up on the information, aren't you?
You're the nut that busted into somebody's house for a day-old steak
Yeah.
for
and beer
reparations.
that he doesn't like.
Madam,
And I ask you, was
I-
the Korean a South Korean or a North Korean?
he was a South Korean, and
oh,
I said,
he was one of our allies.
ma'am,
then.
that's
you
what the
broke
whole.
into the house of one of our allies.
That was the whole point, to get the reparation from the people that we saved.
Yeah, you took reparation from the man that asked us to help against communist takeover.
Well,
How quickly we forget what we went in there for.
That still doesn't figure out how we were ever going to win a
and
war.
it
with
doesn't give you the
you
right
working
to
on
break
the radio.
law.
That's exactly right. And thank you very much, ma'am, for your
You're
call
welcome.
and for your
Thank
service to our country. And 1-800.
What about my service to the country?
Yeah, you know something? Fine. But, I wanted to thank that lady because you insulted her by saying, there's no women radiomen. Oh, no wonder we lost the war and all of that stuff.
Yeah, all I'm making a point about the Mau Mau. And
there ain't no Mau Mau. It was the My Lai massacre. Although the lady says it never happened. So you learn something new every day. Here's Palmdale on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Hi, I'm calling from Palmdale.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I wanted to mention about the gentleman that came into someone's house. That was totally wrong. That was just uncalled for. And another thing, that you were in the Korean War.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, my father was. He was in
God
that
bless
fight.
him. God bless
and
him.
He's dead today, but we had
I'm very sorry to
event
hear
with
that,
the
dear.
veterans. And another thing,
But-
what really hurt me, what you said, do you know I had veterans, young people that was drafted into the service out of my class when I was going to school.
Dear,
but do you wait?
I
Let me
wanna-
finish,
I
sir, because
busted
I have
into
respect
that
for
house
you.
for that
Let me-
your
let me
father-
finish,
for
because
your
I have
father.
respect for you.
I
but
did
you
that
know
for your
what?
father.
Half of them are dead today.
Who?
People that I went to school that went to Vietnam, they went over there. They were drafted over
makes
there.
sense.
All of them weren't crybabies. A lot of them stood up for their country, and a lot of them didn't even rebel to go.
Well, I'll tell you
But there
something
are a
else.
lot- but for
A
you,
lot
now
of-
I've
a
been
lot of those
also
kids-
traveling with my dad when he was
and
in service.
that's
but for
for
you
sure.
to say that, because see, you're hurting a lot of people.
The Brooklyn
and if
Dodgers.
you need help, there
I
is the
saw the
VA
Cleveland
hospital,
Browns
because
back
there's
in
people
1954
nationwide,
when
people
Otto
that are
Graham played
listening to
quarterback
you.
for them. And,
And
did you,
my father's
but
dead. He used to go
Elroy Hirsch
to
was
the
the greatest
parades
tight
and
end I
everything.
ever saw. But
Yeah,
when
but what were you to do?
well, Lou the
wrong.
Toe Groza
I can't
kicked a
even walk
field
into
goal,
anybody's house.
and that was in the 1951 championship game.
But you
What?
know what? You're dreaming back
All
to
I'm
the past.
talking Johnny
you
Padres,
should go
55,
forward
when
to
the Brooklyn
to work
Dodgers
for the
pitched a
military
beautiful
or to do
game.
something, because
Old Preacher
you should
Rowe
not
threw a
say
spitball,
that everyone
and Joe
is
Black
crybaby.
came out of the bullpen.
I think you're
That
a
one in
crybaby.
1951 when Bobby Thompson hit
But
the
I
home
don't
run.
even know nothing
And
about
I
them
went-
What the
names
hell
you're
is he talking about?
I'm
But
talking about
everybody was not
Bobby
a crybaby.
Thompson, that
Some of
did that
those
too.
guys
And that
suffer
other
a
guy,
lot of
what's
things.
his name, with
They
Joe
couldn't even
Steinhardt
go
of the
back
LA
to their
Rams.
wives and
Kurt
their
Warner
kids.
is a pussy
And but
as
for
far
you
as
to
I'm
call him a
concerned.
crybaby,
And all
I
those
think
guys
you're
out
a
there.
crybaby.
But I love hockey.
What?
I'm not even going to call you a nut, but you're a crybaby.
What are you talking
Living
about?
in the
Oh,
past.
come on. Scotty
You're
Bowman
living
ought to
in the
keep
past,
coaching
honey.
the Detroit Red Wings for years.
But
What are you
you're living
talking
in the
about?
past.
I'm living in a
You're
draft.
living in the past.
Oh, in the past. I thought you said there was
Won't
a window
you go
open.
tell Clinton them about it and call them crybabies?
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't like what you said. I have guys I went to school that dead today behind that war. But I don't hold nothing against the United States. I love the United States.
Shut up.
I do.
Phil Hendrie Show, 1-800-449-8686. By the way, Elian Gonzalez's plane is due to touchdown in Havana very soon. We're going to talk about that coming up later on in our program. Our number, 1-800-449-8686. It's a few days after the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War, which was on June 25th. The war began 1950, June 25th of 1950. With us is a Korean War veteran, Mr. Lloyd Bonifide, served in the United States Navy. He was a chief petty officer aboard a minesweeper. And he broke into the home of a South Korean neighbor of his in Alhambra, cooked up a steak and drank some of his beer as what he called reparations for the Korean vets who've been forgotten. Yeah, I want to get back to one thing before we take some more phone calls, Mr. Bonifide. You say that the Alhambra police asked you questions and you refused to answer them.
That is correct, under the terms of the Geneva Convention.
Okay, that's not a military guy questioning you. That is, and the police report says that you were found in your underpants and a tank top T-shirt.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Mr. Hendrie, because I was in the military, I know certain things that I cannot divulge, but I will say that I was stripped down for the mission, and there are some missions that call for you to travel light.
So you stripped down to your underwear and a T-shirt and busted into this guy's house, drank beer, and cooked a steak as part of your mission?
I've probably answered too many questions already, but yes.
Who are you protecting? I don't understand. What? So you stripped down in your underwear and went to a guy's house and...
Mr. Hendrie, these are things that, if you're not a veteran, you don't understand. Other veterans will get it.
All right, here is Port St. Lucie on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I just wanted to address some of the things Mr. Bonifide, is that his name? Bonifide?
Bonifide.
Bonifide?
Italian, yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
sir.
a Vietnam guy.
Well, that's correct, Mr. Bonifide. I just called because more or less you upset me a little with your comments about the Vietnam veterans.
Well,
so
I don't mean it personally, but you know what I mean. A lot of these Vietnam boys crying and whining about stuff. You don't hear the Korean boys doing it.
Well, sure they do. Everybody cries and whines about it.
Come on.
That was a traumatic experience for everyone that was in the war. My father was in the Navy in World War II.
Well,
I was in Vietnam for a year. I feel bad for the Korean guys, too. I give them all the recognition in the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Yes, sir, I'm right here.
Well, I think you need a little bit of help. I think what you did was a little out of line, and you're going to give your fellow veterans a bad name, Mr. Bonifide.
No, sir, I don't think so. I think what I did was I made a statement on behalf of the Korean War veterans, and I had a steak.
Well, I mean,
what do you mean, puh? You know, I don't mind talking to the veteran here, but Mr. Hendrie, are you a veteran of a foreign war?
No, sir, I am not.
And you think you belong in the company of other men?
What's that supposed to mean?
You know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean. What is that supposed to mean? I'm not allowed to have a conversation with you guys because I didn't fight in a war?
Yeah, it's about the size of it, yeah.
No.
Okay, well, I'll let you two guys talk about it then, all right?
You know, when you were the one who made the puh, you went puh like that, didn't he? Didn't he?
I didn't hear him do that.
Oh, the hell you did. I heard him go puh.
Well, I've never heard...
I'll say this much. For all 10 million veterans, I made a stand.
Well, you made a stand, but it wasn't the correct stand to do, sir. You were way out of line in breaking into someone's home and eating their steaks and drinking their drinks or whatever you did in there.
I had some of their...
May I suggest a call to the VA to you, Mr. Bonifide?
What are they going to do?
I, as a Vietnam veteran, appreciate what you did as a Korean War veteran, but I think you need some serious... You need to talk to somebody at the VA.
Are you telling me I need to talk to a doctor?
You need to talk to somebody that understands you. And at the VA, there's a lot of nice gentlemen there and nice women that you may not have to talk to a doctor.
You hear what he's saying?
I'm not saying he's crazy.
No, you're not saying that at all.
I'm saying you're a little out of line. You need a little...
What he's saying?
The foreign war.
Okay, fine. Here is San Diego on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello. San Diego, hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, hi.
Hello. I would just like to tell the gentleman that I'm the wife ex-wife of a Korean War veteran.
God bless you.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that you feel unappreciated, but I'd like you to know that in San Diego, the Korean community had a big dinner to thank and give their gratitude to all the Korean War veterans. They had a free dinner. It was a beautiful dinner.
And why didn't I hear about it?
They gave them all medallions that commemorated the 50 years. People came down from Los Angeles. They came from all over to say thank you.
Well, first of all, did veterans actually go to this?
Oh, yes. And they were all, let's say, 70 to 85 years old.
And they don't realize how dangerous that could be?
Why would it be dangerous?
Because you are moving into the enemy area.
These were not enemies, sir.
These are Koreans, correct?
These are
and you've got old American veterans who are at the mercy of young Koreans.
These are not young Koreans. These are old people who lived there and thanked the Americans for coming to save their country.
So let me ask you this. They asked American veterans to drink that garbage Korean beer? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm not.
Well, madam, I think that's what you're indicating.
They had a beautiful dinner at the Veterans Museum,
and they
commemorated and thanked them with lots of gratitude to tell them how much...
Let me ask you, Mr. Bonifide, first of all, you're saying, why didn't I hear about it? Now you're saying, and they were forced to go into the presence of the enemy. Did you want to go?
Well, they didn't invite me, did they?
Well, maybe you don't have any contact with the community or with the other veterans groups.
And then the other thing I would say is I think it's dangerous for 70-year-old Korean veterans to be around a lot of Koreans that know karate.
These are 70-year-old Koreans and 50-year-old Koreans and young Koreans who heard about it, and they're all there to say thank you.
They were saying thank you, see? Excuse me, meanwhile, you're busted into a guy's house and drinking his beer and eating his steak.
Because nobody invited me to San Diego, did they?
Well, I'm very sorry you missed out on the invitation.
There you go. See, that's what happens.
So, in other words, because you didn't get invited to San Diego, you got a right to bust into a guy's house.
I would think they'd do me the courtesy of inviting me.
I will tell you that the Korean consul came down from Los Angeles.
See, look at that.
The Korean government is very grateful, and they acknowledge it publicly.
I could have gotten a lift with the guy. Couldn't I?
You what?
I could have gotten a lift with the Korean War consulate.
Well, not with the attitude that you have.
Well, if I'd have known, I would...
Okay, so in other words, if they would have invited you to the party, you wouldn't have busted in and drank the guy's lousy beer, as you called it, and his day-old steak.
I've got to go. I just wanted you to know that the Koreans appreciate.
They had a few dogs went missing in my neighborhood 2 weeks ago, and I'll be a son of a gun if that isn't what I ate. Now, you tell me I'm going to go down to a big Korean block party in San Diego? No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your call. 1-800-449-8686. So, in other words, you do want to go, or you don't want to go, or what is it?
What I want is some recognition for the fact that I went on a dangerous mission.
Yeah, because you were stripped down to your tank top and your shorts. Palmdale on the Phil Hendrie Show. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
I called again because, sir, I wanted
Wait a second. You're the same lady.
Sir?
Yeah.
I wanted to apologize to you from the way that I spoke to you because I don't like to do that.
Were you the one who called about the Brooklyn Dodgers?
I used to be a case manager for the veterans, and when you mentioned about the Vietnam,
so you were on a lot of people's cases, weren't you?
I did not like that. But I want to invite you. Even though I'm not
another
working
Korean
there
block
anymore,
party,
I'm a
please.
teacher now in
I don't think
Palmdale.
I can take another one of those.
I want to give you a phone number to the VA hospital, and you could walk through there, even the volunteer service, and they probably could give you recognition for being a Korean. But if I may, I could give you the phone number.
And what are they going to give me, a rectal exam?
Yes. You
recognition.
Probably could get that if you go in there and talk.
Talk about what?
Because even though those veterans that died of the Vietnam, they weren't
crybabies. I can't talk about it because...
Am I able to give him the phone number?
Well, wait a minute. I got to tell the young lady that I'm not allowed to speak of these things on account of the Geneva Convention.
I'm talking about America.
Yes, ma'am.
Smell the coffee. Do you want me to give you the phone number?
I would like you to do that, but remember, I can only give my name, rank, and serial number.
No, don't give your name. I'm going to give you a phone number at the Veterans Hospital.
But I can't talk to them.
At Wilshire and Sawtell Boulevard.
I can't talk to them,
The phone number is 310.
Wait. Let's take that off the air, okay? Ma'am, if you don't mind.
Talk to the volunteers because there are people there that was in the American Legion.
I can't talk to the volunteers because the Geneva Convention says I can only give my name, rank, and serial number.
You probably need to get involved with the
and you know how that is. You know, if you only can give your name, rank, and serial number, who am I going to talk to them about?
You need some
What do you mean your name, rank, and serial number? You can talk to the VA guys, okay? You can.
No, I was stripped down for a mission.
You probably could get in a group.
Think
a
so,
group
huh?
with other veterans.
And do what?
And talk to them and spill your heart out like you're doing on
Do they have a
on the
TV
radio.
room?
But everything you're saying, sir, is not true.
Do they have a television room over there where you
They
can
have,
catch some of
they
that?
have coffee.
Price
they
is
have
Right?
Donuts. They have counselors. Tell them how you feel.
What
you
about
probably
that?
Didn't really sit down.
You know,
and
the
tell
guy that I
somebody
love is
how
that,
you
that,
felt.
that Bob
you
Barker.
were hurt. A lot of people were hurt,
I tell you,
but
that's
they
a hell
went
of a
and did
show
their
there.
job.
Price is Right, huh?
They went and did their job.
Yeah, Bob
I
Barker
wanna help
was
you
in the
to get
Korean
some
War.
help.
He was a pilot.
Who was a pilot?
Bob Barker.
What has this got to do with what the
No,
lady's
you
talking
need,
about?
You need some friends. Do you have a daughter or a family? You probably need friends.
Can I play backgammon?
You probably, they play
They
games
play
and
backgammon
bingo
there,
and
yeah.
everything there.
They got Game Boy.
You need to get
oh,
with a
yeah.
group of veterans.
I'm there. If they got Game Boy, I'm there.
They
Okay.
have games.
Well, ma'am, hold on. We'll get that number for the VA, and you hold on, Lloyd, okay? And
They got Pokemon Yellow, I'm there.
okay, great. Hold on. Yeah. 1-800-449-8686, The Phil Hendrie Show. Oh, God. 1-800-449-8686, Phil Hendrie Show. So let's take a poll here. We're over at the Premier Radio Networks. And by the way, I have a note on some of the goings at KFI here in just a moment, some of the interior doings at KFI. But I was in the office just before we came on the air about, an hour ago. And Melissa Morgan, our associate producer and writer, was just... I mean, Melissa's a great chick, and she's getting married, and she's just a sweetheart, but she's very vulgar. And so there she is with the door to the office wide open, talking about, yeah, and then another guy, you should have seen the ass on him. And so Jim Rome comes out of his office and stares into my office, and he says, yo, need to dial it back a little bit. Like that. And I thought, geez, because I saw there was a lady in his office. And I thought he was angry at us, so I came down here thinking, oh, man. First we did the shtick, we did the number last week where we did kind of a parody on Jim, who, by the way, is a great, great, brilliant artist and broadcaster. And now Melissa's got me in hot water because of her foul mouth and Rome telling us to dial it back. Now you guys tell me he was kidding? So he was just joking around with us? Because as I was getting out of the elevator today, he says to me, how's everything going? I said, lousy. And he said, great, I'd hate to think you were happy. That was the conversation that we had. Because things have been kind of bad for me. Since I got back from Mexico, I've had 5 straight days of the, it's Montezuma's, the Montezuma 3000. 5 straight days of this, and finally called a doctor, and he said, well, take some of that Motrin. Is that what it's called? Motrin AD? Ammonia? Imodium AD, and I took that, Imodium AD, and I took that. Isn't that when the Nicene Creed was adopted, Imodium AD? No, Imodium AD, and I took some of that, and so far, maybe, I don't know. It's just wicked. What could I have eaten down there? I bet you got a parasite of some kind. I've got some gut-eating parasite. It's just like John Hurt. It's going to come screaming out of me. By the way, Elian Gonzalez is on the ground. He's hugging his grandmother. They had, I don't know, it looked like a couple of hundred school kids out there on the tarmac at the Havana airport. And I felt bad for the kids. I could hear Maria in my mind going, it's 10 minutes to 8. Why aren't those babies in bed? Because it's late there. It's 5 minutes to 8 o'clock with all those poor little school kids waving flags. Shouldn't they be in bed or playing their Pokemon Yellow or something? Poor little guy, he looks exhausted, so his old man's got him, his grandfather, and they're wiping his head down, and they're saying hello to him. I bet you that kid is so sick and tired of having adults pawing at him. pawing and grabbing and pawing, rubbing his head, picking through his armpits, going through his shorts. Leave him alone. You remember when you were a kid, the worst thing was just having some, come here, I want to, oh, God, grabbing you and pulling at you and stuff, and they wanted to pick you up and breathe all over you. That was the thing when I was a kid that bothered me, I think, the most about the attention of adults was just the breath. Hi, how are you? You know, they'd had a large onion sandwich. And it never occurred to them. Just never occurred. What are you going to have, Becky? I think I'll have the onion sandwich, and then we'll go make out. Is that good? Yeah, that's a plan. Have an onion sandwich, 3 beers, a glass of milk, a cigarette, and then let's go make out. Perfect. I think I'll go have myself an onion sandwich, a glass of milk, smoke a cigarette, and then go breathe all over my grandson. Aces. So that's what it looks like for this poor kid. So anyway, I wanted to mention to you that there was a news story that we caught our eye here. Kevin Mitnick, you know who this guy is? Kevin Mitnick is the cat that was busted for computer hacking, apparently the all-time champ at computer hacking, and the guy did 5 years in a federal prison, and he was released into a 3-year parole. Part of the terms of his parole is that he may not even be around computers. According to the news story, I'm going to quote directly, Mitnick has been offered a job writing a column reviewing computer magazines for media critic Stephen Brills and another job hosting a talk show on computer issues on LA radio station KFI. So Jeff Levy, you know, the guy that does our computer show right now, his job's entirely safe. And anyway, how'd you like to wake up and read that? Kevin Mitnick offered Jeff Levy's job. No, I don't know that that's true, Jeff, and that's a cruel, cruel thing, and I don't mean to make light of the possibility that you're going to be on the bricks, but you know what? The same thing happened to me in Atlanta. I was out of my gig in Atlanta back in 92. I had to hear about it on the radio. The general manager told me that he'd talk with me, but I guess he was having himself a cocktail that particular night and couldn't get around to it. So I flipped on the radio, and there's Mike Malloy going, and I'll see you Monday at 7. And I'm going, oh, that's interesting. That's my time slot. And so no more job for me. But you know what? I landed on my feet in Minneapolis. While I landed on my feet, there was a distinct crunching sound. It was about 4 feet of snow when I landed on my feet. So this guy Mitnick, this computer hack guy, did you hear about that, Craig? Was offered a gig over at KFI. Guess David offered him the job, but he said, well, what about Jeff Levy? I can't take it if it's going to put Jeff out of a job. And David said, well, you know how things are. And Kevin said, no, I'm sorry. My conscience won't allow me to. So he turned the job down. No, the guy can't even go near a computer. He can't even breathe the same air in a computer store. Nothing having to do with computers. They said that he could type up his column for the newspaper on a typewriter. Seriously, he could type up his column on a typewriter and dictate it to them over a landline phone because he's not allowed to use cell phones. That's how far away from computers. Just let the guy live in a cave, man, in a loincloth. He must eat, kill his own food with a bat, a baseball bat. This guy would be good on Survivor. By the way, who is the winner on that show? Did we find out yet? Matt Drudge said he was going to announce it. Hey, Matt, I'll pay you if you'll do it on my show. 1-800-449-86... Tell you what, you can have Jeff Levy's job. 1-800-449-8686. Phil Hendrie Show.